Kings, chapter 19. Most heartily we beseech thee with thy favour to behold our most gracious sovereign Lord King George, and to replenish him with the grace of thy Holy Spirit. The minister paused to draw a breath. And bless our gracious Queen Charlotte, their Royal Highness, their Royal Highnesses George, Prince of Wales, the Princess Dowager of Wales, and all the royal family. The Reverend had so much beseeching to do for the royal family, I thought we'd be stuck in church for a week. Trinity was an Anglican church, filled with prayers for England, burning incense, and ministers in fancy dress. It discommodited me some to attend, but Madam gave me no choice. At home, we went to the Congregational church, with 10 pews, windows that looked out on the ocean, and a preacher who always wore black. I liked it better. Incense made me sneeze. We humbly beseech. They did a pact of beseeching the Trinity. The church was more than half empty compared to the first Sunday Adam brought us, with what so many folks melting into the countryside, like Master Lockton. Martha Washington and her ladies were north on the island, and those left in the pews were loyalists. This made matters easier for the Reverend, who could pray the way he wanted without worry of insulting men who owned the rebel cannons. Ruth bounced her corn husk doll on her lap and flew it through the air. Some folk grumbled about servants and slaves being forced to sit in the upstairs gallery. To my mind, being in the upstairs meant we were closer to God, and our prayers got there first. Besides, nobody upstairs fussed when Ruth played on the floor. Lighten our darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord, and by thy great mercy defend us from all perils and dangers. I beseech thee, O Lord, by thy great mercy take us home. By the by the hand of Colonel Reagan, take us home in all thy glory. Take us home. Ad astra, ad astra, ad astra. Ruth tugged on my skirt. It was time to stand up again and pray. Below us, Adam leaned against the sturdy figure of Lady Seymour, who had come to the house early and forced Madame out of bed and into a Sunday dress. She covered the bruises still visible on Madame's face with a thick white layer of Molyneux's Italian paste, and told her she must not show weakness. We sat down again, up, down, up, down. You, minister, could never make up his mind. My belly grumbled. Good thing the service was drawing to a close. Just a little more beseeching, a few amens, and we'd head home for cold pigeon pie and sour pickles. Ruth's fingers drifted to her nose for some unsightly digging. As I reached for her hand, the front door of the church slammed open with a thud. The Reverend near fainted with surprise. A young boy ran halfway down the center aisle. Beg your pardon, Reverend, he shouted, but the British has sailed into the harbor. The British Army was hardly marching down Wall Street, but 10 ships docked downriver on Staten Island. Ruth and me followed behind Madame and Lady Seymour as we strode with the crowd to the battery as fast as our skirts would allow. Madame quivered with excitement, but was wise enough not to say a word, for we found ourselves in a crowd of rebels furious about the arrival of King George's boys. Someone fired a cannon a stone's throw from where we stood. Gunpowder smoke drifted across the crowd as soldiers started running every which way, carrying on about orders this and orders that. Someone fired a musket, and a woman shrieked. Two more muskets blasted. Rough voices commanded the firing to cease. Mothers chased after their children. 5 men in frontier leggings and leather shirts sprinted past us, rifles at the ready. Should I grab Ruth and run for the barracks? Could we slip away the sanctuary in the commotion? I looked for Colonel Reagan, but saw him not. None of the men were familiar to me. Had I waited too long? The cannons fired once more, then fell silent. The ships were too far away to be hit, and the cannonballs fell into the river. Another musket cracked fire, but this was more distant. The crowd had settled some, and soldiers were lining up in orderly fashion, thanks to their barking officers. Everyone, please disperse, shouted a broad soldiered man in a crisp blue coat and a sleek, freshly powdered wig. There is no danger here. Go about your business. Come now, Madam said. We will leave this rabble. She walked away with Lady Seymour. I went to follow them, but Ruth would not move. She stood rooted to the ground, trembling against my leg, as if a gale were blowing. Ruthie? I patted her back. It's over now. The noise is gone. No more bangs. I reached to pry her fingers from me. They were stiff and shaking. She was in the grip of a fit, a small one. Oh, Lord, I beseech thee. Madam had stopped and was watching us. Come along, girl, she snapped. Turn your sister loose and run ahead to prepare the meal. Ruth quivered, her teeth chattering in her head. She's a wee bit frightened, ma'am, I explained. Never heard a cannon go off before. Neither have I, added Lady Seymour. She'll feel better once she starts to walk. Please, Lord. Hear what Mrs. said, Ruth? Walking is the best thing. Please keep her on her feet. Please make it stop. We've work to do, baby girl. My voice was as false as my smile. Please. I stepped forward, pushing Ruth ahead as I went. Trembling stopped, but her body went limp. I picked her up and settled her on my hip, her head on my shoulder as if she had fallen asleep. Lady Seymour frowned in concern. Is she poorly? Madam cast a suspicious eye at us. No, ma'am, I lied. Just tired. She's not suffering a particular ailment, is she? Madam asked, her voice kind of complained. No, ma'am, I lied again. She helped carry out the ashes this morning, and it tired, and it tired her. Madam glared a moment longer. Lady Seymour stepped in front of Madam. The heat affects small children more than most. Make sure your sister drinks some water before any more chores. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I bobbed a clumsy curtsy and walked as fast as I could, with the limp burden in my arms, beseeching with every step. British ships continued to sail up the river all the day and all the night. Madam set us to polishing the silver in the hope that we'd soon be serving dinner in the British High Command. On Monday morning, Becky sent me to the washerwoman with a giant basket of dirty tablecloths and serviettes. So many ships had arrived by then, hundreds, folks said, with thousands of soldiers, that we could see the patches of white sail far down the harbor. The washerwoman's home stood empty. A neighbor, she said, had fled at first light, terrified at the thought of invasion. He wasn't the only one. I carried the basket of linen back to the house on Wall Street, put a pot of water over the fire, and gathered the soap and the scrubbing board. Becky was off in search of a seamstress, so Ruth helped me haul the water to the washtub in the backyard. I gave her a small bucket and sliver of soap, and she got to work washing a pair of stockings and singing to herself. She showed no ill effects of the small fit at the battery. It had been a brief shower, not a thunderstorm. As I scrubbed, my mind ran in circles, like a dog chasing its tail. I should take Ruth and march down to the battery. I should demand payment for helping with the arrests. No, no demands. I should politely ask the colonel to fulfill his promise, as a gentleman would. I should write a letter to the general. I should beg Curzon to beg Mr. Bellingham to beg whoever to get us out. I flipped the tablecloth into the rinse tub and started in on a shift that had got mixed in with the table linens. Ruth dropped her stockings in the rinse bucket and loaded her bucket with rocks. Why don't we wash rocks, Ruth? I explained. But they dirty, she said. That is the truth, I said. The rocks were dirty, and washing them kept her calm and away from Madam. Scrub away, lass. There was no use in begging anyone. The chances of them listening to me were as good as a snowball's chance to the devil's bake oven. I reached for the soap, and Ruth flung her half washed rocks, now muddy, not dirty, into the rinsing tub with a clean tablecloth. Before I could scold her, the back door slammed. I saw the flash of a yellow gown by the kitchen window. Madam had been watching us, no doubt displeased that Ruth was washing rocks with a tablecloth. We must escape soon.